yourself and your own limitations from the flow of life enough that life lives you. Because no one's actually living a life. There's just life itself. It's actually living us. Right? It's really funny because, it takes me back to when I was a kid and going to church and the Bible and all that. It's so funny how that, I look at that going, well, that really was preparation for this in a lot of ways, because it says the same thing. Let life guide you. Right? But, that's really hard to do. It's nearly impossible. The juvenile behavior is so hard to let go of. The I don't want to, the I'm afraid, the this isn't fair, so on and so forth. I mean, you can really run someone down quite a bit, run to where they have no energy left. So I just took that effort back in here. And I guess the only way you could really, I could speak of it in a way that might render it understandable is, let's just say, I'm going to paint a picture. Okay? I'm not saying this is how it is, but this is a pretty good representation of that. Only a representation. So you have life. Let's just call life, let's refer it to the sun. Okay? So let's just say, just for a picture, that the sun is life itself. And it's shooting out these rays of light. Well, at the end of each one of these individual rays is us. Right? Now, it's coming through, streaming through your line, the line, your beam. It streams down the beam that ends up being you. Comes streaming down. Well, at a certain point, gets into, if you have any mental blockage, if you have any kind of conditioning there, that life force hits it. Right? And it starts filtering out the intensity. And what ends up getting the intensity is your thoughts. So much so that we are probably in a position, most of us, where we rely much more on our ego-driven mind than we do on our actual presence, our actual spiritual presence. We rely heavily on that. Even though we want the spiritual presence, we still use this to judge the things out in front of us. Right? This is decision making. This is making choices. This is, from a very limited perspective, trying to decide what's right and what's wrong. That's absolutely impossible. So for me, the process was clearing that debris out. Because I noticed at a certain point that whatever that life force hit, it made it come to life. So when it hits a thought, that thought was nothing. It was just an idea until the life force hit it. Anything the life force touches, in a sense, takes on a life of its own. It has to. It's life force. It's what we're living with. So any thoughts in that stream floating around that are, confusing us, they're getting our life force. Basically holding us in bondage. It's nobody. It's just thoughts that we have meditated out there for so long. Thoughts of lack, of despair, of confusion. The more that we amplify that, well, the more it turns into a net that catches that life force as it's streaming through. So the process really was, for me, to take whatever life force ended up right here where I'm actually standing, this present moment right here. Whatever life force that could actually make it all the way to me without me messing it up anywhere, I would turn it back in on itself. So I would basically turn it and send it back up that cord. So really, it was kind of turned out to be assaulting those thoughts from both directions. Right? The life force comes through. There is nothing personal about that. Right? But all that stuff in there that's absorbing that life force is very personal. And who creates that? This person right here in the front. So you turn it back in on itself to make it look at itself. You energize the being to look at itself. And what I noticed was the debris, the limitations, the fears, all those things that stop us. So I used the energy that I had left for many years. I haven't been in public. I just started leaving my house again for the first time about 6 months ago. I sat there, when Carlos died, I sat there for about 10 years, doing nothing but trying to clean out this residue that he showed me I had. And at a certain point, that energy would start to crumble those thought forms, right? Because it ends up empowering your awareness. And when your awareness is peaking, when it's sitting quite high, nothing escapes you, including your own inconsistencies, including our own lack of well-being. It does not escape us anymore. So I would look at that, right? So the first thing I tried was adjusting my behavior. But it didn't work. It just doesn't work. That's like saying, that's going from the bottom up, working the bottom up. But that's not reality. The reality is we are that stream of life force coming down, right? Not this gross material being going up. The life force is coming down. This is where it's all happening. Right? It all spills out into here. It keeps that, keeps space intact, keeps the earth and the sun at the proper location so life can happen. I mean, it does all this, right? Presently. So I basically felt like turning the energy back on that dissolved any thought form that did not, how would I put this, increase my state of well-being. It took a while. What ended up happening was there was nothing, no debris there. So now when the life force was coming through, it came through unfettered. There was nothing blocking it. And, it's not an accomplishment or an achievement. It's the most mind-blowing experience of well-being I've ever known. Because what you're actually talking about happening is all that filtered life force isn't filtered anymore. It's coming through as intensely as it was coming down. It hasn't been deadened. It hasn't been absorbed by anything. So it makes it all the way here to this body. And from there, your mind just shuffles. You realize what it's actually for. It's not for what we're told it's for. It's not to decide who you are in the world. It's not to decide what you should do with your life. It's not supposed to be doing any of this. It does, because by the time that we have our life force reach us, it's not enough to keep us in a state of well-being. So we have to make all kinds of surrogate activity to bring us a sense of joy and well-being. It's not created by being. It's not being that is out searching for anything. It's the mind. It's the self that shows up right here that is not feeling the full brunt of life force. So therefore it's not experiencing its fullness of well-being, which means now it has to amend itself. It has to create concoctions, experiences, and situations for it to get the rest of its well-being. And it worked for a long time. That won't work for anyone anymore. There is no way a human being can now lie to himself about his own well-being. It's impossible. And the way you can sense that it's impossible is look at what's happening. People are really, really starting to lose it. I mean, I've heard stories of 3 friends who, all 3 of them have lost it in the last week. And it's that trying to hold on to what you think you control. And what I learned from Carlos, you don't control anything. You are not the flame. You're just a spark coming off of it. The only way you'll ever feel the essence of control is to allow life to live you. And it doesn't control anything or anyone. It just maintains your level of well-being. Right? And that level of well-being is so joyful that your amount of consumption